Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So there's a lot of YouTubers who have been screaming the sky is falling when it comes to the new and used vehicle market. A lot of people have been screaming that. However, I've only been talking about this for the last few weeks because I am confident that this change, the giant downward dive that we're seeing in our used and new vehicle market, is happening now. It is currently amongst us, and I think it is going to progressively get worse into 2024, and I'm pretty confident in saying that. So in today's video, I'm going to present to you new details, new stats and facts that I think are pretty alarming, and I want to share with you guys. So if you have been on the fence of buying a vehicle, or if you need a vehicle, I'll offer up my advice to you at the end of this video, what I think you should consider doing as a smarter play, a smarter move going forward. So stick with me as we dissect this. So what we're seeing right now is retail being down 30% from its all-time high. On the wholesale side, on the auction side, we're down 53% from its all-time high. So we're just catching up. So that 30% that we're seeing at a retail side is eventually going to catch up to that 53%. And I would argue we're going to see that come April. So if you've been on the fence, hold off till April. You're going to see a notable drop in prices across the board. So at the turn of the year, the number of unsold vehicles across the United States was at 2.65 million. That is up over 59% over last year, this time last year, or about 935 units more than last year. That is the highest levels that we have seen as a nation since spring of 2021. That's pretty crazy. That is a compounding issue that we're seeing continuously grow. That isn't shrinking. That's not even slowing down. It's continuously speeding up. And I foresee that continuously being the case through 2024. That's a staggering number to keep in mind. So we're in a position now where dealerships are, no kidding, beginning to overflow with inventory. And they're so much so where they're not in a position to correct it without drastically dropping their prices. One interesting tidbit is we're starting to see vehicle manufacturers actually suggest that they're going to drop their MSRPs in 2025. That's crazy to me. I feel like, we never see them drop the MSRP. It only goes up. Sometimes it doesn't go up much. Sometimes it'll remain the same if they didn't change the model at all, but we never see it come down. But some manufacturers, Stellantis being one, has already indicated that they're going to be dropping their prices across the board for 2025. That's a good sign, right? We're starting to see that pivot, a pivot that I thought we wouldn't see when it comes to MSRPs, because dealerships, manufacturers are having to make a change right now. If they don't, they're going to find themselves out of business. They're going to find themselves like Vroom. They're going to find themselves like, Northwest Motorsports, some very large dealerships that are going out of business. They're going out of business because they can't keep up with the ever-evolving market. Now, the fascinating part of all this is we continuously see a lot of dealerships sustaining their markups, even right now. Even the dealership that I sold my Ford Raptor to down in Colorado Springs, they are still charging markups on their Ford Raptors. It proved to my benefit, of course, as I sold my Raptor to them for a solid price, but they're not going to be able to move that inventory. I would confidently tell you that the dealerships that are continuously pushing markups right now are going to be the dealerships that are going to fail. And between you and me, I'm okay with that, right? So they're letting their own greed shoot themselves in the foot. They're forcing themselves to keep a hold of their inventory for too long. The longer that they keep that inventory, the more money that they're going to lose. They need to cut their losses, and they need to cut their losses early in order to succeed at all right now. One thing that I find to be pretty interesting is right around the 90-day mark of a vehicle sitting on a dealership lot, the dealer starts considering sending it to auction, sending it through wholesale at that point. I find it fascinating that they would rather wholesale a vehicle rather than actually discount it for the general public, discount it for their potential customers. And to me, I just find that fascinating because what are they doing? They are failing to develop a relationship with the customer. They're missing an opportunity to get a returning customer, to earn that long-lasting customer for their dealership. Rather, they're just kind of kicking it off to auction real quick and cashing in on it as much as they can anyway. So a big part of the problem is so many vehicle manufacturers are just pushing out high trim level vehicles, meaning they've stuffed them full of technology, they've stuffed it full of nice interior, exterior technology, safety, sense, everything you can think of that is just boosting up that MSRP. Because when they boost up that MSRP and stuff it full of additional frills, what are they doing? They're boosting up their profit margin on that vehicle. The way they see it is that vehicle, no matter what, has to go down the production line. They're sharing the same exact production line. An SR5 shares the same production line as a TRD Pro. That TRD Pro makes Toyota a little bit more money than that SR5. So why would they make the bare bones model when they can make more of a profit margin on the higher trimmed vehicle? So we're seeing that across the board, not just with Toyota, of course Ford, their whole F-150 lineup. We're seeing a lot more Platinums and Limiteds being offered, than the basic packages. And I think people nowadays, we just want simplicity. We want simplicity and reliability. We don't need all the additional tech and frills. That's more stuff to break, right? But because of that, prices have gotten out of hand, right? It is not uncommon to spend $100,000 for a brand new truck nowadays if you get it fully loaded. And that tends to be the more common thing. And because of that, the second and third order effect of that is we're seeing increased insurance premiums. We talked about it in my previous video. In 2018, just 6 years ago, not even, we were looking at an insurance premium of just over $1,200, or just under, $1,200 being the annual average insurance premium for full coverage. Fast forward to 2024, we're looking at $2,542 as the average annual insurance premium on full coverage for a vehicle. Over double the price in just 5.5 years. But prior to that, the increase per year was pretty small. Every single year is a very small average increase. But now, because we pushed out so many top trim, packed to the gills vehicles that people can't afford in the first place, it's increased our insurance premiums across the board substantially. And that's just a part of the equation, right? That's a part of the reason why we're seeing so many loan defaults. We're seeing so many repossessions take place. It's because of that. Things have gotten out of hand and too expensive. And one thing we haven't talked too much about is a floor plan. So floor plan is how much a dealership is essentially paying to have vehicles on their lot, right? So the longer a vehicle is sitting on their lot just collecting dust, the more the dealership is paying for it, especially with new vehicles, right? The new vehicles tend to be, what that dealership is paying with a credit line, if you will, to have that inventory. They're holding that credit line, and just like any credit line or credit card, every month they're going to get hit with interest. They're going to get hit with payments for it. So the longer that it's sitting, the more the dealership is losing. We're finding this to be extra painful for dealerships right now because we've teetered into 80 to 85 average days on lots across the nation right now. 80 to 85 days. Any vehicle is just sitting, collecting dust on a dealership lot. That's costing the dealership a ton of money. I think they would just discount it a little bit more to actually move that inventory. They're going to have to. They're going to have no choice. If they're going to try to stay in business, they're going to have to discount the crud out of it to move that inventory. Even through auction right now, a lot of vehicles are not selling. So that isn't the typical escape route for dealerships to continuously pursue. They can't pursue that as a gimme anymore because they're not just selling like they were before. And EVs are certainly a big part of the problem. So we talked about how the average lot time was 80 to 85 days across the nation. Well, EVs are actually making that average a little bit higher, with the average on-lot time being 119 days for electric vehicles across the board. To be fair, that does not include Tesla or Rivian. It's including dealerships with bodied inventory to be accounted for. So 119 days with the average. The Ford F-150 Lightning has an average of 111 days on lot right now. The Mustang Mach-E and Kia EV6 have the highest averages, teetering it toward the 130, 125 days on average. Pretty wild. So what do I suggest? I would recommend, if you are able to, hold off on buying a new vehicle in 2024, do so. Right? Try to buy a cheaper vehicle. Try to spend, less than $25,000, but I would say maybe even between 10 and 15, or even a little bit less than that. If you're able to do that, you're going to find yourself in a much better position. The cheaper vehicles, they're not losing value that much, right? It's the vehicles that cost $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 that are going to tank as we teeter into 2024. If you get a nice, reliable vehicle, a cheap, reliable vehicle, it's going to remain about the same. You're not going to get hit in the stomach quite like everybody else. So if you are in a position just to buy outright, not take a loan out on it, don't get aced with a 12, 15% interest rate on a used vehicle, that's just silly. And so many people are, unfortunately, getting aced with that kind of interest rate on a used vehicle. Even at that $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 range, you're spending a lot of money on interest every month. If you look how much money is actually going toward your principal, it's pretty disgusting if you think about it. So I would suggest that if you're able to wait on buying a new vehicle, pump the brakes, Wait until we get later into 2024, then start looking, because I think dealers are going to have to get pretty desperate, and desperate times call for desperate measures and pretty big discounts. So I would foresee that. But right now, especially as we move forward, it is going to be a cash buyer's paradise. Avoid those interest rates totally and get those discounts on top of it, because dealers are going to have to move their inventory. But if you're able to spend, that $15,000 range for a vehicle and just buy it outright, you're going to be in a good spot. You're going to be able to drive that vehicle, kind of get past this tidal wave that we're seeing right now in the entire vehicle market with a vehicle that you're not going to lose a whole lot of money on. That is what I would do. There's my advice to you. I am pretty confident that we're going to continue to see this downward swing in the market in 2024. Pretty confident in seeing those, guys. So stick with me for more updates as we talk more about this. I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy engaging with you all on it, getting your perspectives on it. As always, I appreciate you watching. If you haven't considered so already, please consider liking and subscribing. Your support really, really helps. Thanks a lot.